Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market. It's our daily show from Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. BST, every day of the week. We discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make money by leveraging the internet and the latest technologies. I'm your host, B-Check. I'm joined by my legendary co-host, Legendary. And we have no other speakers on stage with us, but hopefully we will do at some point later. So we're going to introduce them and get into an interesting discussion as the markets keep going up. But before we get there, just a reminder, friends, nothing that any of us say here is financial advice. This modern market is exceptionally risky. We do not know anything for sure. So please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment with that out of the way. Legendary, how are you doing this Thursday, the 9th of November? Things are moving up. They don't stop moving up at the moment. How are you feeling?
My mood quite does the same. It also keeps moving up, very much in synchronicity with the market, doing very well.
I think I'm tired already. Like Monday was my favorite day when you got dressed up in the luminous yellow tracksuit. That felt fun.
That was Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay. So 2 days ago, that felt fun. That felt like bull market vibes were back. Everyone was feeling happy. I think the numbers are still up a little bit from there, but I'm tired and I'm getting anxious. And one of the things I've been thinking about, I've seen a bunch of people tweeting about this as well, so it can't only be me. And it kind of shows the outrageous nature of our space as well. It's like you're unhappy when things are going down, and then as things start going up, you just start getting anxious as to whether you're going to make enough when things do inevitably go back up. So now I'm wondering, maybe I was happy when I was unhappy when we were down, but now I'm going to be unhappy on the way up because you're just always going to be thinking about what you might have left on the table, not allocating appropriately. And I've started noticing, thinking or feeling that a little bit myself, and I need to shake myself out of it because I'm usually quite good at not feeling that, but I've noticed it creeping in. So that's where I'm at. How do you feel
What
about
changed
that?
though? I mean, it's not your first cycle. We've been together through the last bull market, and as you said, historically, you've been very good at taking profits and accepting them like at face value and not being like, oh fuck, I missed another 50 ETH in profits. So what changed?
Well, the thing is, when I reflect on it, so you say that I've been through many, well, you didn't say I had been through many ones. I was definitely there for 21 and I managed to do well out of it. But in 21, it definitely felt like it was, I didn't 100% really know what was going on. Like things were going up, but it wasn't like really calculated. Like trading NFTs for the very first time, I don't think anyone really knew what was going on. Like, fortunately, they went up, and the certain things played out. But at the same time, it wasn't like I was there at the beginning, and I'd kind of seen things go down, bottom out, and then go up. We were kind of just joined on the ascent. This time, because I've had that period of time where things have bottomed out, and I've been there all the way through, haven't quit at all, been turning up every single day, staying in the space, super committed. It makes you feel a little bit more like, well, maybe you should have caught the bottom. Maybe you should have been there at that point in time and been a bit wiser to those things. Because last time I came in on the ascent and was just kind of enjoying it and seeing whatever played out. Whereas this time, do you see what I mean? It's like I was there a little bit pre-rise. So that's what I think the difference is. But I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think also the massive challenge is still going to be to take profits, in the sense of you will, and we've already seen crazy rides with some of the gaming NFTs, and you say you're tired after a week, but in essence, if you look at some of the like steepest increases that we've seen, I remember when I bought my first apes in that 5 to 7 ETH range, and I held them for, what was that, 36, 37 days until until the mutants dropped, and they went from the 5-7 ETH mark in a bit more than a month to 60 ETH. And it doesn't take more. Like, it's not you need to hold them back for a year to make an insane amount of return on that. So yes, it gets tiring very, very fast, but also still most of the plays that if you want to make them short term, you can make them short term. It's not like you need a multi-year conviction for something. I mean, it's always good to have that multi-year thesis and conviction for some projects, but you will always have those short-term opportunities. And those are the ones I find the most challenging to like take profits and at one point to be like, look, this is a significant enough win and position that I want to close, well knowing that it might not be the top.
Yeah. How are you thinking about, you mentioned like certain multi-year positions, certain mid-term positions, like your ape was maybe a few months. How are you thinking like right now? Are you looking for short-term things, mid or long?
I mean, honestly, all three. Like, luckily, I'm in the position now that I wasn't in the last cycle. Like last cycle, when I did buy, those two apes, that was a lot of money back then to me.
Mm.
And I was like, I can't buy 20 apes and be like, I sell some of the 3x, some of the 4x, and continue that, and some will be my moon bag, etc. But now that I have a bit more flexibility in my portfolio, there's absolutely things I want to trade short term where I'm going for a token allocation with some of the gaming projects. There's things that I have a way higher conviction and long term interest in, which mostly is ETH and Bitcoin. And then there's like the things in between, like some of the layer 2 solutions, some of the infrastructure stuff that we've been talking about on the show. And luckily, I can like allocate my assets between those three. But certainly the most time consuming out of those is definitely the short term trading, where you need to stay on top of the daily news. Because if you have a high conviction in ETH or Bitcoin, you just DCA into them, you're like, want to hold that for 5 years plus or whatever. You don't really need to follow the news. Like, you don't fucking care if it goes up or down 10% in a day.
Yeah. It's a lot going on. Even you speaking about that, talking about gaming, talking about token allocations, talking about ETH, talking about Bitcoin. And then, we're doing we're doing work on top of that, right? Like we're running this, we're running other things. So it definitely feels like there's just a lot going on. And yeah, like off air just before this, I was speaking to Legendary saying, I think we need like a longer chat. Like we just need to talk. By the time the end of this week comes along, we just need an hour to lay out all the various things that we're looking at, things that we think are interesting. Because I mean, many of the things we talk on the show, but then also there's just so much going on that it almost feels like you need to get through to the end of the week before you can reassess and evaluate and have a longer chat, because feeling pretty distracted at the moment, as in because your head gets turned from opportunity to opportunity. Any final thoughts on that, Legendary, before we get into the show?
Absolutely need a chat tomorrow. Looking forward to that, but also looking forward to getting to the news right now.
Very good. Let's do it then. But before we get into the headlines and the price action, guys, as always, please do help us out by clicking the comment button in the right-hand corner. You can retweet the spaces. And as always, if you want to follow along, the snapshot has all of the details I'm about to share. So please do like it if you find that it brings you some value today. So let's get into it, starting with some price action. We have CryptoPunks up 5%, up at a 52.7 ETH floor. I'm going to tell you how much I left on the table there in a second, Legendary. Bored Apes are up 10% at 32.4 ETH. Mutants up 8% at 6 ETH. DGods up flat at 3.4 ETH. Captains up 10% at 4.2. Azuki's up 9 at 6.3. Penguins at 5.3. Moonbirds up 15% at 2.4. And Nouns at 24 ETH. So a lot of green on the NFT leader board. Some top sales, both going to Gordon Goner. Azuki Spirit selling for 89 ETH. That's $170,000. And a Doodle Crown selling for 69 ETH. That's $132,000. Getting into the headlines, we have Bitcoin hitting a new high for the year above 36,000. That's up 4%. I think potentially on rumors that the Bitcoin ETF approval could be much sooner than expected. We're going to dive into that in a bit. That's not confirmed. It's just kind of a few rumors going around. Next, Gordon Goner, NFT spree continues with Deadfellas, Adam Bomb Squad, Chimpers, Wreck Guy, Cool Cat, Spirit Azuki, and more. He says also there will be 4 more grails tomorrow. Then he's done for now. Wondering what those could be. And finally, I like this art one. Art blocks trichromatic mints out at 0.85 ETH, then surges to 2.1 ETH floor. There were high sales at 6 ETH and 3.2 ETH respectively, and the floor is, as I said, up to 2.1 ETH. Back to art blocks created mints, minting out quickly and then running. So I wonder what that indicates as to where we are in the market. That is the price action. Those are the headlines. Legendary, what numbers are you liking there?
I mean, what's not to like? I do like Moonbirds. We talked about them over the last couple of shows. The significant move up that they are on. Obviously, still a holder of my own Moonbird, so that's definitely exciting to see.
What's the cause there? Do you have any indication of what the cause there? I know at one point a big move up was because of flooring protocol. They needed to buy a bunch. That was my understanding. But then it's kind of sustained. It's not like they dumped after that. Any indication of what that could be?
Not really. Not really. I mean, I obviously see them moving up with the rest of the market, but they do have a steeper move than the average of the market, I would argue.
Sure.
But I don't have any clear indication of that because honestly, I've also been lacking the time to spend in the Moonbirds Discord or the Proof Discord.
Remember, Riggs told us that one of the, I can't remember if it was a DAO or just whatever type of DAO that they've created, they've allocated a certain amount of money to buy, I think, the floor or maybe other NFTs in that collection. So maybe it could be that Broom coming out to sweep some of the NFTs. I know that was one of the things which Riggs mentioned. So I think that probably accounts for, at least is likely to account for some of it. But you're going to go on to say some other numbers.
Bitcoin, obviously. Exciting to see that going kind of into the first news at the year-to-date high.
Do you want to set it up? Do you want to talk about it?
Absolutely. I mean, Bitcoin almost is getting closer to 37K. You also quoted the research note saying that they believe that the chance now is, analysts now believe that the chance is 90% that the spot Bitcoin ETFs will be approved by January 10th. I mean, remember when we started that analyst talk, I think we got the first sense of excitement when they moved it up from a 50-50 chance to a 55-45 chance. So that confidence has significantly increased now. And also the interesting addition to that note by James Seaford is, if it comes earlier, we are entering a window where a wave of approval orders for all the current applicants on the asterisk could occur. So that would be obviously interesting to see the impact on the market if we see a line of approvals, a series of approvals happening at the same time for the spot ETFs.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, one thing that I'm always uncertain of is when people quote like random percentages, as I'm always uncertain as to where they pluck the numbers from, whether it was 45%, 90% now. I don't know where that number comes from. So I don't put too much weight in that necessarily. But just to give a little bit more color, reading from the extract of news, they say potential Bitcoin ETF approval window opens for BlackRock. And I get, what they're saying is there's this chance that it goes through even prior to January, where there's a brief window which opens on November the 9th for the SEC to potentially approve all 12 US spot Bitcoin ETF applicants, including Grayscale's GBTC. It will be open for at least 8 days. Even if approvals don't arrive this month, we still believe there's a 90% chance of approval by January the 10th. And that is from James Seifert, who is at Bloomberg. So that's their opinion. I also wanted to bring up Mando's tweet, which was about another closed door SEC meeting taking place today. So I think this kind of referencing the same meeting taking place. And he said his position was, we are going to see ETFs approved before Thanksgiving. And it gives some of the details about the meeting that will take place today at 2 p.m. So that'll be under discussion. But actually, one of my friends, Prospector, commented beneath, and he's kind of knowledgeable about this type of stuff. In his opinion, he said the SEC is going to go into a 60-day comment review period by Thanksgiving to push this out to 2024. We get approval at that time, and ETFs launch 30 to 60 days later. So I just want to provide, the balanced perspective, and that, yes, I know that everyone on the timeline is going to want to get hyper excited and say that it's coming, that it's 90% likely going to happen in January, or there's even this chance going to happen sooner. But there are some other people who are saying, well, hang on a sec, this could actually just take a little bit longer. So maybe don't get too excited too quickly. So just wanted to put that out there as well. Thoughts on those two possibilities, Legendary?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely the correct perspective to take. It didn't launch an ETF yet, but we, in the former company where I used to work at, we launched multiple ETPs, so exchange traded products, also for cryptocurrencies in Europe. And even if you have the approval to do that, it does take time after that to set that up. Obviously, the funding and the seeding for that has been done long ago. This is also something to be aware of, because I still seem to see that notion on the timeline sometimes that participants think once those approvals go through, Grayscale, BlackRock, and all the others will just market by billions and billions of BTC to seed their ETFs, which is not the case. That is not what's going to happen. If anyone buys those ETFs, it's going to be retail, and they are already seeded, or the capital for that has already been provided and used to acquire BTC. So that caveat is also important to mention. But nonetheless, it is still a very, very positive outlook. I do agree with you that those percentages should be taken with a grain of salt. I rather like to not look at the specific number, but look at how it evolves. And just seeing that went from those 45 to 90% is just a significant move in confidence. But it's not so much about the number, if it's 85, 90, 92, 69, whatever percent, but like more above the positive trend. I think one other observation that I had on the Bitcoin price versus the ETH price, it is a tweet by NFT Stats that he made, I think, a couple of hours ago, where Sam said that a Bitcoin gets you 20 ETH. That's near the highest that the ratio has been in nearly 2 years, which is also quite interesting to observe, because you have more talk around the BTC ETFs. Obviously, there's also filings for ETH spot ETFs, which might take a bit longer to be approved, which are not taking the main timeline attention. But it will be interesting to see how that BTC to ETH ratio will evolve once we live in a world where both those currencies have their own spot ETFs.
Yeah, that's a really good point. People have, up to this point, spoken about ETH as the kind of unloved major crypto, the middle child, as Bitcoin gets the love as the oldest. Solana has been obviously ripping in the last few weeks. And then ETH is kind of in the middle. Yes, it's gone up with all the others, but hasn't really moved at all. How do you think about the BTC ETH ratio and where it's trading at the moment? Obviously, at the moment, you can swap your Bitcoin for more ETH than you could have done for quite some time. Do you see that going back down to a level that was more accustomed to, that we would have been more accustomed to before? Or do you see Bitcoin running away with it in the short or medium term?
I could see BTC running away with it in the short or medium term. I think now with more political instability, geopolitical instability in the world, that old narrative of BTC being the inflation hedge, despite the fact that that is not always as true as people like to think it is still a nice narrative to follow. And even if ETH, not if, but at the time when ETH ETFs will be approved, BTC ETFs will be approved prior to that, most likely, and they will have had more time in the market. They will have had more attention spent in the market. So I do think that it will take, it will take a bit of time for ETH to catch up and bring that ratio down again to where it used to be on average over the last 2 years, which was around like the 14 to 16 ETH per BTC.
Yeah, I can see a world in which that happens for sure. I agree with you that the instability in the world kind of makes that proposition, or that thesis more powerful for the moments that we're in now. I wanted to add just a little bit more on the application. So we mentioned that some people thought it was coming sooner than later. Prospectus said that no, well, actually, it's probably just going to get pushed a little bit. And then Mando provided a bit more context to say that Valkyrie were expecting the rule changes at the month end. One of the people there said they expect the SEC will send firms another round of comments in the next few weeks, followed by potential approval of firms' changes at the month end. The firm this week amended its own spot Bitcoin ETF application. If the SEC is satisfied with the responses to those comments, then they will likely approve the forms, which are rule changes to exchanges to permit the funds at the end of November. So that's interesting. I mean, I guess on some level, this is an administrative process, and if people are happy with what's been done, unless there's any type of delay or being told that they need to delay for any reason, I guess there's no reason to necessarily block it, right?
Yeah, definitely agree with that line of thinking. And by the way, on the note that we are talking about the SEC, and you know how much I love to dunk on Gary Gensler.
Yes.
Did you see the clip yesterday by the Minnesota representative Tom Emmer talking about Gary Gensler, calling him both ineffective and incompetent?
No, I didn't see that one.
You definitely have to watch that.
Is it good? Did he just want to dunk on him? Did he say anything more material, or just wanted to do a little dunk?
He did talk a lot about the digital asset industry and how important it is for the US to stay on top of the innovation that's going on, and how his quote unquote reign in SEC enforcement abuses against the digital asset industry, and how it puts the US in a weaker position by just blocking a lot of the innovation that could happen. So it was a very, very good clip.
Interesting. A final point on the crypto aspect of the news, the crypto aspect of the headline. Obviously, things are up quite a lot. Mando does a lot of sharing of his trades. He said he woke up and took some profits and said there was a volatile day coming. And I believe that what they do to check this, when someone asked like what's driving the volatility today, he said funding rates are through the roof. People are piling into leveraged altcoin longs. So beware of that. I mean, I've definitely seen a lot of not quite euphoria on the timeline, but certainly a hell of a lot of excitement on the timeline. And we've mentioned this with respect to NFTs to say, look, there's a lot of euphoria, a lot of price up, but there's not actually that many new buyers at all. So I wonder what type of analysis would come out if we looked at the crypto altcoins. Like, are there new people coming to buy, or is it just the same people getting hyper excited and then leveraging too much getting into it? Do you have any insight on that? Any thoughts on that, about how the sentiment is moving?
I mean, again, going back to NFT stats to Sam, he shared another tweet where he also showed that now, as of very, very recently, we've also seen an uptick in the active wallets, which is something we haven't seen a week or 2 weeks ago. So that definitely is a very, very good sign. But still, the number of active participants, at least when it comes to the JPEG space, is still rather low. So this is like one of the major things that holds me back from getting into, full-blown euphoria mode.
Sure. Makes sense. Happy to have been able to provide a little bit of perspective on the price rise. Also thinking about the ETF applications from both sides, trying to stay balanced. Like, yes, they could come sooner rather than later, and yet there are opinions going the other way. Happy to have been able to provide both of those. Let's move on. Moving into the NFT market, we've still got to talk about Gordon Goner's buys, which are very exciting, and also some art blocks mints. And I want to kind of compare that with a bunch of other art that has been selling really, really well in the last week. So that's going to come a little bit later. So stay tuned for that. Let's get into Gordon Goner's buys. His absolute spending spree, legendary. Shall I touch on this and you want to change the title?
Absolutely, let's do it.
So, a breakdown of Gordon Goner's viral shopping sprees so far. We have got a new list. I believe it's up to date, although it might be missing one or two. This is done by the good team at the NFT Morning Show, who are actually me and Legendary are going to be on that today. in a few hours. So if you want to listen to us again, we'll be there. So we've got a CryptoPunk selling for 600 ETH, Crypto, Sappy Seals, D-Gods, Pudgy Penguins. That was all the day. That was all yesterday or the day before. Then we've had Dead Fellas, Adam Bob Squad, Chimpers, Goblin Town, Wreck Guy, a G-Tag, Cool Cats, Meebits. And the Meebit cost 42 ETH. Okay. So that's a grand total of 712 ETH, which is $1.35 million. Andrew, have I missed anything there? I know he bought a Grail Zuki Spirit as well for 86 ETH, which apparently someone just bought the other day for 45. So that was a pretty nice flip for someone. A quick 40 ETH in a few weeks. Anything else I'm missing in terms of the NFTs? Any other thoughts on this real injection of excitement into the NFT market?
Yeah, the Azuki, I would say, is the main one missing from that list, and it's also the purchase that at least yesterday did put the spirit floor back at 100 ETH as well. And also, if you look at the wallet, there's quite a lot of NFTs that have been sent to him, quite some valuable ones among them as well.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw one message about a mutant hound getting sent.
That was a nice story. Obviously, that team has been building to extend the BYC IP, and it's, I think, one of the rarest in the collection that got sent to him. But that had a story tied to it, and obviously the messaging on X. But there's just also a lot of people sending random NFTs to Gordon, playing that old game of making it look like he had bought it to pump their own bags, which we've seen times and times happening in the last bull market, where people just send a shit ton of JPEGs to traders like Pranksy, Nate Alex, and the like, just to have a fake narrative that, Pranks is now looking at my bags because I sent that to him and it looks like he bought it. So definitely, if you have a look at Gordon's wallet, whether you do that on Blur or on OpenSea or wherever you do that, just look at the sales. Don't look at the transfers. Look at what he actually bought.
Yeah, that's a good point. What do you think about that strategy then? Because there's two things that I've seen projects do, and to be fair to them, I think this is your time, right? Like, the guy is locked and loaded. What was the message you sent? It was actually a real classic. I've got a few of them here. This is just a fun way to announce that you're in the mix. He said, "Listen, it's going to be a fucking day, okay? Rapid firing a bunch of NFTs, all under 3 ETH later, then copying some expensive grails. Hold on to your butts." Like, the guy's just having fun. The guy's having fun. He's announced that to everyone. And so I don't begrudge any team or any project leaders or founders or team members trying to get across his radar, right? Because I highly doubt the DGen guy is like made a specific list and he's going through it in a really methodical way. He's just spraying and having fun. So the two things I've seen people do, I guess one thing you've said is people have been sending expensive, like even quite expensive things to his wallet. And the Mutant Hounds one worked, right? Because they got a quote tweet off it. He actually ended up saying that, "Oh, this has saved me a purchase tomorrow. This was one of the teams I was going to buy into." So awesome attention for them. And I'll probably just check in a second what that did to the price. But then the alternative one is just in the comments every single time. Projects who have not been bought yet are just saying like, when us? Like, when are we going to be on the list? What do you think, if you were a project leader at the moment, like what's the best way to attract his attention in this moment? What do you think?
It's a good question. It's probably too short term to do some kind of stunt to get on his radar if you haven't been on his radar yet, unless you do something that's tremendously funny and just hits all of the timeline he inevitably sees it. On a more strategic level, what loads of projects, including Apes, have done in the past is obviously going for honoraries and having like honorary members, honorary mints for them, specific PFPs that they designed for them. That, if you play that strategically, is a good thing to do. But Gordon is having fun and buying NFTs over a couple of days, so that would take more time than that. And I don't think there's really anything you can do other than having a nice story, sending something to him like the Mutant Hounds did, and then hoping for that quote repost, which did work out in the end and was a good story. But again, there's history with that project and the Bored Ape ecosystem.
Yeah. So what it did, there's been 500% more sales in the last 24 hours. Still not a huge number, but it's a big percentage, but it's only 32 extra sales in the last 24 hours. And the floor price was up 20%. So not necessarily a huge impact. And I think when these things happen, it's always the case that the first one where it happens has the biggest pump, and then every subsequent one goes down a certain amount, right? It can't sustain. Market doesn't have enough liquidity to pump every single one of these projects, I don't think. So I think that's something to be aware of. Any other thoughts, Legendary, on what Gordon's done? One of my reflections, actually, before I throw it over to you, is that I've just really, really been struck. I mentioned it a little bit yesterday, but I've been really struck by the way the whole kind of NFT community has been so injected with happiness and fun just by his presence. And I don't think I had appreciated how much he meant to people. Like, it really feels like he had struck a chord with people, where people had really connected with him on a human level, in a way that I don't see people really speak about other founders. And I think this whole moment, and I know obviously people are happy because he's buying NFTs, and that means that the price goes up, and on a price level, people are happy. But I just genuinely don't think I had appreciated what he meant to people more than that. So that's one of my reflections. I don't know if that sounds like overly like a romantic or idealistic perspective, but I genuinely felt that on the timeline. And there were multiple people on the stage yesterday who kind of solidified that idea for me. Legendary, what are your thoughts on that? And then would love to hear from Triple Ace, who has raised his hand and is also in the Mutant Cartel. So I think you might be able to give some good perspective for us there. Legendary first.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Did share that perspective yesterday. Again, as someone who has been an early member in the Bored Ape community, that was definitely the case. That Gordon has done a lot for the vibes, but also on top of that, it is just, and this is something I find hard to explain for myself even. It is different when your JPEGs are pumping compared to other asset classes, right? I am up with many token plays that I did. And even from a tax perspective, they are way better, because on tokens, only if I cash out to fiat or purchase goods or services, then I pay capital gains on that. Whereas if my JPEGs are pumping, I pay income tax, which goes up to fucking 55% in Austria, which is double than capital gains, which is 27.5. But still, it's just more joyful to see your JPEGs pumping, which is completely irrational. And I realize how stupid I sound saying that, but that is definitely the community element that adds this emotional component to your JPEG as opposed to a random token. At least for me, can speak for the general public, of course.
No, I think that's real, and I think that's why so many people felt what they felt in the last few days. Reason why people spoke so highly of Gordon in the last few days on the show as well. Yeah, it's just definitely something I felt. I think there is an emotional attachment and connection between some of the NFT projects and the people running them and their community members. So definitely just something to note. Triple Ace, welcome to the stage. You are the wise guy in the Mutant Cartel. I suspect you have something to add on the Mutant Hound gift to Gordon Goner, but also anything else on that you think on this Gordon Goner NFT spree. Welcome.
Let's go. Oh, baby, it's triple. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we don't need the music, mate. We don't need the music. If you
Hello, everyone. How are you, sir? No, sir. You misunderstand me. That's a part of my intro, sir. You misunderstand that. See, a lot of people misunderstand that. That's a part of the intro when Triple Ace enters the room, my good sir. Nice to meet everyone, and I hope you're having a lovely morning. My name is Triple Ace, and I'm with the Mutant Cartel, a holder of the Mutant Hound. I suppose I can.
Do you have an answer to the question, Triple Ace? It's kind of good stuff. I mean, usually I would mute you, but I'm kind of liking the character. Do you have an answer to the question? It's a great intro so far, but we need an answer.
Well, the answer is it was totally unexpected that a prominent CryptoPunk sent a demon hound to Gordon Garner. I am the leader of the demon faction and founder of the Demon Council, and it totally blindsided me. I think that this is a great injection into the NFT economy, and I totally appreciate everyone for doubling down and showing support, because we know that Gordon has been going through health issues here or there, and now he's coming back in full force because he's almost in a playful retirement mode. And we can, take hold of that and see the NFT community revel in joy, and happiness can make a sick man happy. So there's my answer.
That's a good answer. When you started off, I wasn't sure we were going to get that answer, but I like that answer. I actually completely agree with you. It was very good. I completely agree with you. It's what did you say? You said playful retirement mode. I think that's a very good way to describe what he's been going through. Thank you for that contribution. Legendary, playful retirement mode. Is that something that you like to sound
No problem. And everyone have a lovely day. If you'd like to see more of this character, Mutant Mondays hosted by Vanguard,
yes,
at 12 p.m.
Thank
Eastern.
you. It wasn't an opportunity for you to say about other events, my friend. We don't do that on the show. But thank you very much for the character.
Didn't know that.
We appreciate it. Legendary, playful retirement mode. What are your thoughts?
That's the goal to reach after the next bull cycle, right? If you didn't make it in the first, the second one is the one to do it.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Just recovering, just getting our bearings back after the nice little performance. I don't mind a performance when it's on point and directly answering the question. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed that. But got to keep it on the topic. More broadly, Legendary, I think before we get into the final one, the NFT market in general, Mando was talking about taking some profits across the board. What are your thoughts? Are we a bit too hot at the moment? CryptoPunks are up to now 52 ETH floor. There was someone saying that for the first time in quite a while, the floor is now 100K, back to 100K from about 70, 60K before. Where do you think we're placed in that respect?
I mean, it doesn't take a lot of capital to pump the floors of many NFT collections. Also, it didn't take a lot of capital to pump Solana compared to the amount of money it takes to pump ETH or BTC, right? So on the other hand, if a bit of that excitement goes away, it doesn't take a lot of listings to correct those floor prices. And even if this is the beginning, or even if this were to be the beginning of the next bull cycle, it never goes up in a straight line. So sure. I do think we are overheating a bit. But it's nice to see CryptoPunks being back at a six-figure floor. Yildosaurus, who isn't with us in the space any longer, would have been happy about that. Don't know how many people remember his iconic tweet. Which was don't at me if you don't rock a six-figure PFP. It's time to get out of your mom's basement and stop doing shit, start working, etc., etc., etc. So he would have been happy to see that.
He would. He would absolutely. The point I was going to make about the CryptoPunk before is that we're talking about getting anxious about missing out on things, and it's interesting. I actually don't. I'm going to tell you guys this, and it's going to make you think I'm thinking about it too much, but I'm not. I'm actually fine with this aspect. But I told you I did the CryptoPunk flip the other day. That CryptoPunk, I think I probably left about 75K on the table now because of when I sold, because of the ETH value going up and how the price has moved so much in ETH value, because the ETH value went from like 40 to 50 and ETH has gone up at the same time. And this was like a mid range. I think it's like, it was genuinely really good one. So I've left a lot on the table there, feeling a little bit hurt, but also to your point before, it kind of feels fine. It feels fine in the sense that this is the game we're in, and you can't dwell on things like that. Final thoughts on that, Legendary. Then we're going to get into the Web3 roundup, get people up to speed, and then we want to touch on the art stuff, because there's been some awesome art stuff moving this week, and I think it's a sign of things to come.
Let's get into the roundup. Real curious to hear your thoughts on the art market, because you're definitely the one out of the two of us following it way more closer than I am.
Very good. Let's do it. So as always, this is the Web3 and creator roundup from the snapshot up top to get you up to speed with what else is going on in the last 24 hours before our final headline. As we just said, CryptoPunks is back to a $100,000 floor. A local floor was set just before of $67,000. It was just it was low as that just a few weeks ago, in 20 days ago. Sorry. Next, ApeCoin DAO announces that proposals which return value to the DAO are indeed permissible. I think there was some misconception that if you want to give money back to the DAO in some way, then that would invalidate the proposal. But what they've said is that AIPs returning value back to the ApeCoin DAO and or the Ape Foundation are permissible, provided that the appropriate structures and documentation are conducted. So I guess there's just some stuff, hurdles you've got to jump through. Next, the Adidas and Bugatti limited edition football boots crypto auction is live. 99 boots, I think 60 hours left on that auction. This is really cool. Dawn AI wallet launches as a crypto co-pilot. Dawn AI is a crypto co-pilot wallet and personal assistant that lets you use Ethereum by simply talking to your wallet. I don't know if I'm 100% down for just talking to my wallet and telling it to buy certain NFTs or not yet. I don't know if it can do that yet or not. I don't know if that's a safe wallet for some people when you can buy and sell NFTs as quickly as that. But I definitely want to test it out, to be honest, maybe with a small amount of ETH. Moving into the creator corner, Slime Sunday sells 852 editions of Triumphs of the Nation State. That is a total mint of 852 editions, and the collector mint was 361 at $40. The public mint was 491 at $120. That was total primary sale of $73,000. So very nice there for Slime Sunday. And finally, Noun's Garden Round 2 kicks off today with 2 5 ETH grants. We've been reporting a lot on just these grants that are available. I think yesterday there was a 250K grant or fund to fund creators by Arsenic and Z-Blocks. It just seems like a lot of money available for people who want to try to apply and who are, more creative. So I think people should be taking a look at these things. That is the Web3 roundup and the news from the Creator Corner. Legendary, do you want to get into the final piece, or shall I?
Yes, please. Definitely one for you to do.
Okay. So yesterday we had the Art Blocks piece by, I believe the artist was Mount Vitruvius, and it minted out at, how Art Blocks works. There's always a Dutch auction. The price goes down, down, down until there's enough buyers to sell the project out. It sold out at the lowest mint of 0.85 ETH. And then the floor ran up to 2.1 ETH. We've had sales at 6 ETH and 3.2 ETH, respectively. This is data, it's obviously available, but reported by NFT Stats, which has been very helpful. And his thought there was that it's been a minute since I've had Artbox FOMO, but here we are. And I think it has been quite some time since the art blocks would go down, find a clearing price, and then immediately run up. That just hasn't really happened for a while. And I wanted to place this mint in the context of the other art primary sales which have been happening. So obviously the first one is what I also just mentioned today, is that Slime Sunday sold a bunch of these 800 something editions with 70K of primary sales. So that's very significant that primary sale volume is there. And look, the return on this may not be as high. I think the collector's version sold for $40. So that's an immediate 5x because they're trading now at around $200. But the public bought in at 150. So not necessarily a huge return, but just showing demand, almost 1,000 mints for this was, I think, pretty significant. And then the final piece, which I wanted to bring up, is again, we've reported on it every single day this week, when it sold out and before that. But just Jake Fried's North Star collection, which was 100 editions, each selling for 1 ETH each. Now the floor on this is not significantly higher, it's only at 1.1, but that's a 100 ETH raise in this market, right here, right now. And I just wanted to place the Artbox mint in its context of all these other art mints admittedly from very prominent artists, but the fact that the demand is there, and these are not cheap prices. Well, the Slime Sunday one was a bit more affordable, but 100 pieces at 1 ETH each for Jake Fried, I mean, that's probably a reasonable price for their work, but it's a big raise. It's a big raise. Good, healthy primary sales taking place across the art market. And I just think it's a sign that things are not as bad. And I mean, I've been saying this for a while in terms of the digital or the fine digital art side of things. It's just not as bad as you think at the top end. I appreciate it's more difficult for other artists at the moment because liquidity has kind of been attracted towards the top. But I think things are looking up, and when artists hopefully make this money, historically, they've also like reinvested into other artists that they like. So I think in the end, there should be some trickle down where the top artists make a lot, and then hopefully that means they're able to go around and support other people as well. What do you think about just that? You know, me placing the Art Blocks Mint in the context of those other 2 mints, and then also that idea of the top artists going around supporting the others as they seem to be raising and making a pretty decent amount at the moment.
There's multiple questions in here. I've been following the Slime Sunday one because I did collect quite some pieces by Slime Sunday.
Nice.
The very first was the Last Stand of the Nation State.
That's such a classic, that one.
Which I had actually on the wall before I changed to the Cherry Blossoms.
Oh, nice.
And if you look at the volume between, I mean, it's not really a fair comparison, obviously, because one was at peak bull excitement and is a couple years old. The other one just came out. But still, if you look at the Last Stand of Nation State, which has a secondary market volume of 2.2 mil, average sales price of 5.2K, minted at $40. Still did 4K over the last 30 days, so like 2 sold in the last month. Still sees movement. Yes, there is excitement in the art market. Yes, the art market did way better in the bear market than the general JPEG market, but it feels kind of matured, which is not a bad thing. And thus now it's moving a bit slower than the recovery we see across the board, obviously, than hype topics like the gaming meta. But I think overall it is a good sign for the art market that it has that sustained interest, that it's not as cyclical as other trending things, and ultimately also is now following the traditional art market closer in terms of how the market is moving and evolving. In terms of the other question that you had of artists, top tier artists, or not top tier artists, top earning artists would be the more correct term to use, probably, using some of the money that they made to support other artists. It's something that we've always seen in this space, that even got to the other extreme. If someone didn't do it, we used to shame persons. We used to shame Park for a long time not collecting other artists' work. We used to shame people for cashing out his 69 million sale and selling his ETH. It's almost like we build that social pressure that, you know, if you're successful, you have to give back to the community, which, I mean, obviously is always a nice thing to do that, but ultimately, you know, it is everyone's choice what they do with their money and with the profits that they've been making, whether that's from minting a project, trading, selling art. But generally speaking, a very good trend. But the side that I don't like about it, that we almost build the social pressure around that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess it's no different in some ways to is it in some way like the low tax argument where people say, well, tax people less and then things will trickle down. Like it's that kind of trickle down economy where people at the top make more, and then you just assume and hope that they do make it trickle down to other people. Yeah, I don't know 100% on that. I don't know what the final position probably is. But what do you think about the art block stuff? Because I think one of the things that was definitely a sign in the previous market was when art blocks was on fire. And art blocks is still one of the things that when we think about, like, if you were to choose something to go long term, people think punks, people think Autoglyphs, people think Fidenza, people think and people think art blocks really. And that excitement over the Dutch auction in art blocks was definitely one of the things which was emblematic of a hot market. Do you think that this is emblematic of that, or do you think people just like the collection? Like, we're just looking at it now. Some people talking about it as if it's, one of a really, really, maybe one of the best pieces in recent times. What do you think about it? Just from looking at it.
I mean, I do quite like it visually. I think generally art blocks is in a difficult position to some extent on how they want to move forward with their collections, on how they want to release collections. They did change that system quite a while ago. You obviously have a base of very dedicated collectors, of people who are chasing the full sets of art blocks releases, and for them, as like the number one art publishing platform in this space, for many people at least, finding that balance between releasing new collections but also keeping a certain level of scarcity is not an easy one to do, especially in a time when you have individual artists like Jack Butcher, who we talk about so often on the show, is on his rise to establish himself as almost an institution where everyone wants to collaborate with him and is not necessarily chasing that nifty gateway release or other platforms any longer. It doesn't make the way forward for art blocks more easy. So I do quite like that excitement around the collection. I like it visually, but I don't think that they have an easy way forward in this space necessarily.
I don't know. Maybe I'd take the other side of that in a sense that I definitely think then with their name, it just seems to be, and I get your point, like that there was definitely a little bit of a lull, and they need to think of how to maintain the quality and check the supply and make sure there's always demand for curated collections. But I think they're probably in a position where they can just keep this machine moving at this point. Like, I think they maybe have to be more thoughtful on the regularity, and I think they have done that since before. But I feel like the name and the you mentioned Jack Butcher as an institution and the OPEPN as an institutional kind of production. I like that idea, and I like that we had that conversation about OPEPN as this kind of institution in itself. But I think art blocks is probably its own thing as well. It's certainly its own thing as well, in my opinion.
Definitely agree. It's certainly its own thing. It's certainly an institution in the digital art space, but it's not at a point where you could say it's too big to fail, and whatever they do, they will be successful. It is a non-trivial thing to run a platform like art blocks.
For sure.
And you still could fail. Not that I think that it will fail or anything, but it's just saying that it's certainly a complex spot for them to be in the market.
For sure. Some nice sober thoughts to bring the show to a close. It's been an interesting discussion as always. Hope that we kind of covered everything that we say that we are supposed to cover in the modern market. Sometimes we don't, but we literally did do crypto today. We did NFTs today. I love doing a little bit of art as well. It's one of my favorite things. So glad we got to cover the spectrum, and we hope that you enjoyed it. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you for being with us. We will, of course, be back tomorrow, Friday, for the final show of the week. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.